Good evening. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Shan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories, and we'll be filling in them over the next half hour. But first, the headlines that we're tracking right now. French police conduct anti-terror raids in a Paris suburb. 2 people, including a woman suicide bomber, killed, 7 arrested. Prime Minister calls for economic sanctions and targeting the proceeds of crime to choke terror funding. Home Minister Rajnath Singh on a 6-day visit to China, deepening security engagement to be the focus of the talks with its leaders. The flood fury relents in Tamil Nadu. Met Department sounds alert for Andhra Pradesh on the northeastern monsoon. And another face-off over the South China Sea. China hits back after US President Obama says it should stop building artificial islands in the region. Our top story this evening, the French police carried out a deadly swoop on an apartment in a northern suburb of Paris early on Wednesday. The raid targeted suspects believed to have links with the gruesome Paris attacks last week.
Armed police raided a flat in the North Paris suburb of Saint-Denis in an operation linked to Friday's attacks. A female suspect blew herself up with a suicide belt. French police confirmed that 2 suspects died and 7 were arrested. A 7-year-old police dog was also killed in the apartment in Saint-Denis. There were explosions and gunfire in the operation, which went on for 6 hours. The focus of the operation was to nab Abdelhamid Abaoud, the alleged mastermind of the Islamic State-claimed attacks that killed 129 people last week. Abaoud was believed to be holed up in the apartment in Saint-Denis. So who is Abdelhamid Abaoud? He is the suspected mastermind of the Paris attacks. He is thought to be from Molenbeek area of Brussels, which is also home to other members of the terror cell that carried out the massacre. He is a 27-year-old Belgian of Moroccan origin and is reported to have had links to thwarted attacks on a Paris-bound train when 2 US soldiers and a civilian overpowered a gunman. Meanwhile, 2 Air France flights headed from the United States to Paris were diverted because of bomb threats. Both flights landed safely, were searched and given the all-clear by Canadian and US authorities. Flight 65 en route from Los Angeles to Paris was diverted to Salt Lake City, and shortly afterward, Air France Flight 55 from Washington to Paris was diverted to an airport in Nova Scotia, Canada. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Now, Prime Minister Modi said his government had taken significant steps to check corruption in a short period of time. His remarks came at the 6th Global Focal Point Conference on Asset Recovery being hosted by the CBI. In wake of the Paris attacks, he also sought targeted economic sanctions to curb terror funding. In this context, he called for efforts to enhance international cooperation in the field of asset recovery to fight crime, corruption and militancy. Calling corruption one of the principal challenges for the governments across the world, Modi listed steps initiated by his government to curb the black money menace.
The dastardly acts committed in Paris a few days ago are a grim reminder that terrorists have shown remarkable flexibility and adaptability in meeting their funding requirements. They derive funding from a variety of criminal activities, which includes smuggling of narcotics, bank robbery, vehicle theft, fake currency, or from state-sponsored and activities in failed states.
Now, Home Minister Rajnath Singh starts his key visit to China today. Strengthening security relations and checking arms smuggling to northeastern militants will top his agenda. It's also the first trip by an Indian Home Minister to China in 10 years.
Home Minister Rajnath Singh's 6-day visit to China is coming against the backdrop of a steady improvement of relations between the 2 countries.
Terrorism is our common foe today. China is also facing a problem on its western Tibet border, Xinjiang area from Uyghurs, which is a tribe there. India, of course, has been a major target of terrorist attacks. So whatever information, intelligence sharing we can do on the subject of terrorists would be, I think, a priority area for both of them.
Both China and India face a constant threat of cross-border terrorism, ironically stemming up from the same neighbor, Pakistan. Besides the issue of terror, the Home Minister will talk about security cooperation, focusing on a more effective crackdown by China on militant groups in the northeast.
Well, as far as the Home Minister's visit is concerned, it should be an important visit. As you know, after 10 years, an Indian Home Minister will be visiting China. Their focus should be on border management, a better management of situations on border, and I think he will also discuss with the Chinese counterparts on the small arms that are found, small Chinese arms that are found with the northeastern insurgents. That will be the focus of his trips.
Rajnath Singh will spend 3 days in Beijing, followed by a 3-day stay in Shanghai. Besides talks with his Chinese counterpart, the Home Minister is also expected to call on Chinese President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Li Keqiang. Palak Sharma's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And we're joined by Jabin Thomas Jacob, Assistant Director of the Institute of Chinese Study, to help us understand, Jabin, as far as the Home Minister's visit to China is concerned. Now, India and China have a lot of prickly issues, but such a comprehensive visit and could really address some of those issues, can't it?
Yeah, I think the Home Minister will have his plate full on his visit to China. The two major issues have been, as your reporter just mentioned, the question of terrorism emanating from Pakistan and the issue of Chinese arms circulating in the northeast. Now, on the question of terrorism, I'm afraid we will not have any forward movement unless China can agree to the Indian formulation that this terrorism is state-sponsored, coming from a Chinese ally, that is Pakistan. And, short of that, all exercises that we manage to do with the Chinese, the hand-in-hand, or any sort of exchanges, these will be fruitless. And so the question is whether the Home Minister can convince his Chinese counterparts that there is, something to be gained as far as China is concerned by understanding that the threat comes from state-sponsored, threat is state-sponsored from Pakistan.
All right. Right.
On the issue of the arms in the northeast, this has been a low-level problem for a very long time, and something that has just not been addressed or by the two sides. But I think it's coming to the stage where we cannot turn a blind eye to this any longer.
Okay.
Insurgent groups in the northeast derive a certain political mileage and strength from the fact that they are getting weapons from the Chinese, and they also get some kind of political support from elements within the Chinese security establishment. This also needs to be tackled.
Absolutely, it does, and we'll have to wait and watch as far as what the Home Minister talks about in that particular visit. But from the Chinese side, Jabin, what do you think would the Chinese side be wanting from India?
See, the Chinese want greater cooperation on anti-terror exercises from India, because this, in a way, validates their version of terrorism or their version of or their concerns on Uyghur, so-called Uyghur terrorism. You see, the thing in Xinjiang is essentially the result of dissatisfaction with the Chinese state, which has then, only certain elements of it have become radicalized. But largely, it's small-scale attacks, knife attacks, and so on that take place in Xinjiang, and which is now being portrayed as terrorism. Actually, qualitatively, what the Chinese call terrorism and what we define as terrorism are very, very different. So, by association with India, which is a major, which suffers in the extreme from terrorism from external sources, China wishes to validate its own concerns about terrorism. And I think, they are sort of riding piggyback on the fact that India is a victim of terrorism, and therefore let us also get our internal problems sorted by, this sort of an association.
All right, interesting to see what developments happened over there when these conversations between the Home Minister and the Chinese leaders happened. But Jabin, thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand the implications of the conversation in that visit. On that note, we'll take a very quick break. Lots more on the other side. Do stay tuned.
we cannot afford to ignore the critical review of the whole election and its outcome. The people like Advaniji, people like Dr. Joshi ji, and their statement or their suggestions or their advice will be taken very seriously by the party leadership. BJP is replacing Congress at the all India level, and it has become a final aspect. In India, this has been always the country of the rainbow of ideologies.
Watch To The Point with BJP's National General Secretary Muralidhar Rao on Rajya Sabha television.
Well, now, in an attempt to boost our infrastructure sector, the Union Cabinet today approved fast-tracking several rail and road projects. It also cleared some new projects as well. Other decisions included a 10% stake sale in state-owned Coal India Limited. That could fetch around 20,000 crore rupees to the exchequer. In his first meeting after the Bihar election results, Cabinet also approved the tracking of stalled bridge over the river Ganga in Munger in Bihar. Cabinet also approved a hike in the relief to migrants from hilly areas of Jammu and new jobs and houses for Kashmiri Pandits. Let's go across to our correspondent Vishal there, who's been tracking all the developments happening at that cabinet meeting. And Vishal, first meeting of the Union Cabinet after the Bihar elections, and lots to ponder over, but a couple of critical decisions being taken today, isn't it?
Well, yes, you're right, Ishan, and in fact, you put it exactly the manner in which the other political analysts are also looking at it this way, because after the crushing defeat in Bihar elections, this was the first time that the Prime Minister was heading the cabinet meeting was underway, and one of the major decisions which were taken in this cabinet meeting dealt with Bihar only. As you mentioned, that railway bridge in the Munger district over River Ganges, which was in fact the work started in 1998. It has been 17 long years. The work is yet to be completed. So today, the cabinet has allocated additional funds and put in a deadline as well for mid-2016 to ensure that the rail traffic starts moving on that particular bridge. So that's sort of a signal which is being sent by the central government out here, that irrespective of the poll results, the government is taking decisions. Also, a very significant decision has been taken with respect to the Jammu and Kashmir, the state of Jammu and Kashmir. The migrants from Jammu, the hilly areas, have their compensation has been brought at par with the Kashmiri Pandits, and those Kashmiri Pandits have also been given one more relief package in terms of 3,000 jobs and 6,000 houses for them. So these were the state-specific decisions, but in addition to that, infrastructure is one sector where the focus of this cabinet meeting was apparently, because there were several road projects, almost 3 dozen to be specific, 34 road projects which were stalled over the years due to one reason or the other. The major among them seemingly dealt with the land acquisition issue, be it the revised price or be it the non-availability of land.
Right.
So all those issues will now be cleared with the cabinet giving the authority to the ministry as well as the National Highway Authority of India to look into each case specifically one by one, take decisive action and ensure that all these projects are completed in a time-bound manner. The same has been done with the rail sector as well. There are several, rail projects which have been cleared by the cabinet today, doubling of several lines and initialization of third and fourth line in one particular segment. So all these decisions have been taken with a in a bid to ensure that that much needed boost to the infrastructure sector is given. Also, one very important decision out here, which has been taken by the cabinet today, is that relief which has been given to the sugarcane farmers. Now, the subsidy of 4.50 rupees per quintal will go directly to the sugarcane farmers. Now, this will ensure that that long pending demand of sugarcane farmers for clearance of their areas from the sugar mills, that is something which will be controlled in a phased manner. So all these decisions, a number of them have been taken by the cabinet today.
All right, critical decisions being taken by the Union Cabinet over there, a booster dose for the economy through infrastructure is what we were hoping. Thanks very much for that, Vishal. Vishal, of course, will keep a track of all these developments as they happen on the political front. Now, the fury of the northeastern monsoon has subsided in Chennai and other areas of Tamil Nadu. It has now crossed over to Andhra Pradesh, where the Met Department has predicted a heavy downpour in the coastal areas.
People in Tamil Nadu, especially in Chennai, getting some respite from the torrential rains. Although streets are still waterlogged, life is gradually limping back to normal days after the rain fury killed 79 people.
नॉर्थ ईस्ट मानसून सक्रिय होता है अक्टूबर नवंबर में और तमिलनाडु एक ऐसा राज्य है जहां बहुत ज़्यादा बारिश होती है, बल्कि पूरे साल का जितनी बारिश तमिलनाडु में होती है उसका लगभग 50% इसी सीजन में हो जाती है। कहीं कहीं बारिश हो रही है वो भी 2 से 4 सेंटीमीटर की है और जो सिस्टम था जिसकी वजह से बारिश हुई थी वो अब तटीय आंध्र प्रदेश की तरफ है, तो थोड़ा बारिश इस समय तटीय आंध्र प्रदेश और रायलसीमा में ज़्यादा है और तमिलनाडु में बारिश में काफ़ी कमी है।
Nearly 55,000 people in Chennai and neighbouring areas have been shifted to safer places. The NDRF, Navy and Air Force are carrying out rescue operations since Tuesday and distributing food and water packets to marooned people.
We are struggling because today the water is getting down, but still we are struggling. From last 3 or 4 days there was no electricity, no food. I request the government of Tamil Nadu to help us, to help the local people over here, because 70 or 60% of the people are right now vacant right now from here, but still we are struggling to live. There is no food. You can just see I'm just trying to buy something for my family.
We are facing many hectic situation. We can't able to buy anything, vegetables or fruits or something else.
No help from government authorities. We have been trying to reach the corporation and the EB department, but there is no proper response from any of one. We have not received any help yet.
Neighbouring Andhra Pradesh is now facing the fury of the northeastern monsoon. Coastal areas of Kadapa, Chittoor, Nellore and Prakasam are receiving heavy downpour. 5 deaths have been reported from Kadapa, where a wall collapsed due to rain. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the government plans to adopt a comprehensive approach to usher in a second green revolution. Part of this strategy is to unveil a new fertilizer policy and increase application of agrochemicals.
Faced with failing farm productivity, rising food prices and farmer suicides, the government is desperately looking for another green revolution. As a first step, it plans to make fertilizers available at affordable prices. It also wants to boost use of agrochemicals. At 0.6 kg per hectare, India is one of the lowest consumers of agrochemicals in the world.
If you talk of plant protection, all your insecticides are chemicals. If you talk of mulching, it's chemicals. Your greenhouses are chemical. Your shade nets are chemicals. If you talk about post-harvest management, it's impossible without chemicals because all the handling devices are made of chemicals.
The Parliamentary Standing Committee on Agriculture has invited suggestions from stakeholders on agricultural research on topics like geographical conditions, use of fertilizers, impact of climate changes.
वो विषय है और वो उसमें एनजीओ को और अन्य लोगों को भी आमंत्रित किया गया है कि वो अपनी राय वो कृषि समिति के सामने रखे जिससे कि पार्लियामेंट में हम रिपोर्ट पेश कर सकें.
Farmers are demanding new varieties of crops that can withstand climatic fluctuation and an expansion of irrigation facilities to increase productivity. Overall, food grain production in the country declined to 251.12 million tons in 2014-15 from a record 265.04 million tons in 2013-14. At an estimated 90.78 million tons, wheat production is lower by 5.07 million tons than the record 95.85 million tons in 2013-14. Pulses are estimated at 17.38 million tons, lower by 1.87 million tons. The Modi government is betting on a second green revolution as a long-term strategy for agriculture. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, companies and individuals who are unable to repay loans to funding agencies can now seek professional help to restructure their finances. This provision is part of the union government's draft bankruptcy bill that seeks to avoid conflicts between creditors and debtors.
As part of its efforts to ensure ease of doing business, the Narendra Modi government is proposing a mechanism to protect loss-making companies. The draft Insolvency and Bankruptcy Bill allows companies and individuals to apply for insolvency resolution. It will allow professionals to study and provide solutions to improve a company's finances.
This law, which is being proposed, is trying to put in place a definite time period within which the problem can be looked into, it can be taken care of, and in case there are bad debts realization, then certain tribunals and other courts are being set up to address the issue.
The draft Insolvency and Bankruptcy Bill proposes a 180-day timeline to deal with insolvency and enable winding up of a debt-ridden company. It also has space for an insolvency regulator to regulate insolvency professionals and agencies. A debt recovery tribunal will act as an adjudicating authority for individuals and partnership firms. The bill also proposes information agencies to collate financial information from listed companies and their creditors.
Now, here one thing very important that has come in this is information agencies. Now, they will be tracking all the information of these companies, and they will have a system in place to forewarn, to take steps much earlier than the normal banking system or the bank or the entrepreneurial system takes place.
The government has constituted a bankruptcy law reform committee under former Law Secretary T.K. Vishwanathan to look into various issues related to bankruptcy. Currently, the insolvency issues are dealt by two British-era acts. The government has placed its draft bill on Finance Ministry website for stakeholder consultation till Thursday. This is Rajkamal's Rao report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's now take a look at some more news and updates from around the country and nationwide. Nitish Kumar extended a personal invite to Prime Minister Narendra Modi for a swearing-in ceremony on the 20th of November. The JDU leader will take oath as Bihar Chief Minister after his Grand Alliance won a landslide victory in the polls. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal and West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee had earlier confirmed they will attend the function. The CBI today brought deported Ulfa leader Anup Chetia to Guwahati on a transit remand. He was produced before the court of the Chief Judicial Magistrate amid tight security to stop people from going near Chetia and from raising pro-Ulfa slogans. Food safety regulator FSSAI said Yoga Guru Ramdev promoted FMCG venture Patanjali did not have approval for its newly launched instant noodles. However, Patanjali Ayurved that owns the noodles brand denied the statement. The company launched its Atta noodles earlier this week to rival Nestle's Maggi that returned to shops after a 5-month ban. Some international news now, and another America-China face-off is brewing over the disputed South China Sea. At the ongoing APEC summit in Manila, US President Barack Obama warned China to stop building artificial islands in the South China Sea. China hit back, saying that under a traditional military cooperation agreement, the US should neither target a third party nor damage sovereignty of other countries.
The United States sternly warning China to stop reclaiming islands in the disputed South China Sea. Speaking at an economic meet of the APEC nations in Manila, US President Barack Obama said the US is committed to the security of the Philippines, one of its closest allies in the region. On Tuesday, Obama announced monetary and naval assistance to the Philippines. He also visited a Coast Guard cutter donated by America to the Philippines.
Now, the United States has been committed to the security of this region for more than 70 years. We intend to transfer 2 additional ships to the Philippine Navy, a research vessel to help map its territorial waters, and another U.S. Coast Guard cutter to bolster the Navy's ability to conduct long-endurance patrols. As part of our larger plan to increase maritime security assistance to our allies and our partners across the region, $250 million over the course of 2 years.
I take this opportunity to reiterate the Philippines' view that the freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea must be continuously upheld, consistent with international law.
The US intervention has angered China, which has urged Obama to stop hyping up the South China Sea issue.
中方在南沙群岛部分驻守岛礁上的建设活动，完全是中国主权范围内的事情。 合情合理合法。
China also termed it a provocative action by the United States. President Xi Jinping, who is also in Manila for the summit, urged Pacific nations to resolve their differences through dialogue. China has overlapping claims with Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Taiwan and Brunei in the South China Sea, through which $5 trillion in shipborne trade passes every year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time for some other international news stories and global buzz. A suicide bomber killed at least 32 people and left 80 injured in a market in northeastern Nigerian city of Yola. The explosion ripped through the crowded vegetable market. No group claimed responsibility. Nigerian President Buhari visited Yola just 5 days ago to present medals to soldiers fighting Boko Haram. The Bangladesh Supreme Court today upheld its previous verdict on the death sentence for two war crime convicts, Ali Hassan Mohammad Mujahid and Salahuddin Qadar Chaudhry. The court rejected their pleas to review death sentences for crimes against humanity during the country's War of Independence in 1971. Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal has suspended his campaign for the Republican nomination for the president in 2016. Jindal has consistently polled on the lower end of the pack of Republicans seeking the party's nomination for the election. From sports now, and the second test match between India and South Africa at Chennai ended in a draw today. On-field umpires called off the match after a final inspection at 11:30 this morning. It was the first time in the history of Test cricket in India that 4 days have been completely washed out. The last time a major part of a test was washed out was almost a decade ago when play was held up for 3 days in Chennai between India and Sri Lanka. With a 1-0 lead in the 4-match series, India will take on South Africa in the third test at Nagpur from the 25th of November. Well, that's it from us. Goodbye.